Good evening, New Jersey. I'm Bob Franks. And I'm the candidate with the experience and the values that money can't buy. It's amazing, isn't it, what you can do with just a little bit of money when you have a lot of ideas and a lot of people willing to work day and night to support those ideas. Today I followed the same routine I follow every election day. I went bowling, and then I watched a couple of movies. I bowled a 187 today. Not too bad, particularly with rented shoes and a borrowed ball. Then I went home and I watched a tape of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And as always, I was inspired by the vision of a public servant who actually seeks to serve the public and not his own ego or vanity. We've won the Republican Party primary today because people who know me voted for me. But we now go into the general election campaign where people don't know me. They will be asking, what kind of Republican am I? A Christie Whitman Republican? A Ronald Reagan Republican? A Colin Powell Republican? Well, let me tell you this. I'm Bob Franks, and I'm a Bob Franks Republican. Like Christie Whitman, our great governor, I am committed to preserving New Jersey's precious open space. Like Ronald Reagan, I'm a fiscal conservative who believes that working Americans should keep more of their hard-earned money. And like Colin Powell, I will work with every fiber of my being to make sure that every child in Newark, in Camden, in Patterson, in Trenton, in Jersey City, regardless of race or gender, have the same opportunity to enjoy the American dream. And like John McCain, I will continue my fight for real and comprehensive campaign finance reform. For the last 7 years, I've had the privilege and the responsibility to represent New Jersey's 7th Congressional District. In my area, independents and Democrats outnumber Republicans by more than 4-1. People there don't think of me as the Republican congressman from the 7th District. They think of me as their congressman. A Bob Franks Republican is independent. Independent of everyone except the people who send him to Washington, the people of New Jersey. I came to Washington in 1993, determined to change the way that the federal government works. I helped to reform welfare. I helped write the first balanced budget in a generation. I carried the notion of reform to Social Security, where I helped write the Social Security lockbox legislation to end the raid on the Social
And so we listened to Congressman Bob Franks accepting his party's nomination for the GOP Senate contest. And as we watch that, we also take a look at State Senator Bill Gormley, who is addressing his campaign at headquarters there in Egg Harbor Township. Conceding defeat tonight. We'll try to settle that audio situation for you so that we can listen in to what Bill Gormley has to say. Earlier, we heard his campaign spokesperson, several of them say that it would be a little while yet before he was ready to concede. And while we iron out those audio difficulties, let's send it back now to Congressman Bob Franks and listen in as he continues his acceptance speech before supporters there at campaign headquarters tonight.
It's a symbol, yes, but an important one. And now a handful of members of Congress are doing the same thing. Bob Franks' Republican is fully committed to ending the marriage tax penalty that undermines the basic institution of American life. Bob Franks' Republican respects the Second Amendment, but favors common sense gun controls to keep firearms out of the hands of unsupervised children, out of the hands of criminals, and out of the hands of people with a history of mental instability. That's why I had to break with some of our party's leaders in Washington when I supported an assault weapon ban. And that's why I'm frustrated over the fact that the laws that I've fought to get passed are not being enforced at the federal level because of a wishy-washy Justice Department. Bob Franks' Republican is a label that I can live with. It's one that I will defend, and it's one that I'll go on the defensive and offensive to protect. Stick that label on me. Tonight, the other party nominated Jon Corzine, and I heartily congratulate Mr. Corzine tonight. Hold it, folks, hold it. Mr. Corzine won the Democratic nomination because he spent more than $30 million to make his name as familiar Jon Corzine spent more than $30 million to make his name as familiar to folks in New Jersey as Ronald McDonald. But even Ronald doesn't spend as much on television advertising as Jon Corzine. Some of Mr. Corzine's campaign expenditures were particularly noteworthy. He paid $200,000 to a lawyer to snoop on his opponent. $200,000. There's no room in contemporary politics for that sort of thing. Tonight, there's no doubt that Jon Corzine will try to buy a seat in the United States Senate. But the real issue is whether you can afford to let him. You see, what's dangerous about Jon Corzine isn't the fact that he spent tens of millions of his own money. What's really dangerous is the prospect of Jon Corzine potentially sitting in the United States Senate, where he will have the power to spend your money. The truth is that Jon Corzine, as wealthy as he is simply out of touch. out of touch with people struggling to pay mortgages, college tuition, or staying within a family's budget. His lavish spending during the course of this campaign demonstrates that Mr. Corzine is truly extravagant with his own money. If he has such little regard for his own money, what regard will he have for yours and your children's and your parents? For nearly 8 years, I've served on the House Budget Committee. The programs being called for by Mr. Corzine will wipe out the current budget surplus that we've worked so hard to achieve. The Corzine plan will cost hundreds of billions of dollars in new revenue if it's going to be put into effect. Does Mr. Corzine favor massive new tax increases to pay for all of his universal programs? Does he intend to raid the Social Security Trust Fund to finance his big government spending spree? Or will he merely take us back to the days of deficit spending and more debt? You know, there was one great idea that retiring Senator Frank Lautenberg had back in 1982 when he first ran for the Senate. He challenged his opponent, Millicent Fenwick, to 21 debates, one in each of New Jersey's counties. You know, Frank, that was such a good idea. I'm going to borrow it tonight. Tonight, New Jersey, I challenge Jon Corzine to the same series of debates that Senator Lautenberg suggested nearly 20 years ago. So, John, let's start tomorrow, early tomorrow, with breakfast. Let's meet tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. at the Lido Diner on Route 22 in Springfield, New Jersey. Let's start talking to New Jersey families about the kind of senator that each one of us will make. John, this would require you to stop hiding behind your poll numbers and your multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns. I won't let you buy this Senate seat, but I may let you pick up the check. You know, a lot of people around the country believe that the Senate contest on the other side of the river is the most exciting contest in the country. That's because they've never seen me and Jon Corzine at the Lido Diner at 7:30 in the morning. And they've never seen us fight over the check either. But now, for this moment, let's enjoy tonight's tremendous victory. I'd like to thank all of New Jersey voters, Democrat and Republican alike, who went to the polls today, despite the wind and the rain, the fog and the gloom. To my opponents and friends who were my competitors in this primary, Bill Gormley, Jim Treffinger, and Murray Sabrin. Thank you for pushing the competition, but never going over the edge. I know that we'll work together for the good of our state and the good of our nation. To my family, to my wife Fran, and to the star of the campaign, Kelly Amanda Franks. Thank you for standing by me. Thank you for standing by me during this campaign. I can't possibly thank the thousands of Republican activists in nearly every community in New Jersey who allowed us to overcome a tremendous financial advantage that one of our opponents had and allowed me to win tonight. But let me